ES Audio.
You've got to be ahead of the game, right? One step ahead of the opposition, on the cutting, no bleeding edge of technology. Innovate or die, yeah? Well, true. But what happens when you're too far ahead of your time?
We were probably 5 years too early, if I'm honest. People thought we were mad. Why would you put appointments online? Why would you put health information online? Nobody wants that. That just sounds like a security risk.
Tom Whicher is the founder and CEO of DrDoctor, tech used by patients and clinicians to book and cancel appointments. You know those texts you get reminding you you're supposed to see your doc tomorrow? It's a pretty good chance it came from them. It uses AI and it was founded in 2012, so long before the world ever heard of ChatGPT and worried about the implications of artificial intelligence in the workforce.
Chess is like a really good example here, where a human and a computer together are the ultimate chess player. It's not the computer on its own, it's definitely not the human on its own anymore, but a human and a computer together are super powerful. And that's the model I try and apply to kind of how do we leverage these things at work.
I'm David Marsden from the Evening Standard. We're going to be talking about AI in healthcare and its uses and limitations for entrepreneurs. But the good thing about being early to market is, if you survive long enough, there are rewards to be reaped. DrDoctor's belated 10th birthday present this year was £10 million of funding. So that's got to be nice.
The funny thing about when you raise funding is you never feel you can celebrate because it's when the real work starts.
Yeah.
You spend 6 months prepping it all, and then actually by the time the money's in the account, you're on to the hard of it, which is going and delivering. But yeah, it was a great sign to raise that amount of money in what is a really hard market. I think it says a lot about the belief people have in health at the moment and the traction that we had at that point.
Yeah, I think it shows the interest in that market. Was that there though when you first started, when you founded this company, or have you had to kind of point out, do you know what, maybe we should all be doing this sort of thing?
Not at all. I mean, we're a bit different to many startups in that we're 10 years old, and at the time people thought we were mad. Why would you put appointments online? Why would you put health information online? Nobody wants that. That just sounds like a security risk. So we had to do a lot of hard yards persuading hospitals and regulators and patients to some extent that actually this is a good idea. We were probably 5 years too early, if I'm honest, but that sort of tenacity carried us through, and obviously it's paid off.
Tell me about those first 5 years then, Tom. Were they fun?
It was literally, I was working in hospitals, and I quit my job on a Friday, started the business on a Monday with my two colleagues, Rinesh and Perrin. And I literally sold my car. I had a Golf GTI that I loved, and I sold it to fund, to pay myself for the first year, basically, which was painful. But it was great fun. We weren't earning any money, but we were working on a problem that we really cared about. And I don't think there's anything more rewarding than working with a small group of people who you really respect and love on a problem which you think has value. Whilst the business didn't get the traction in the first 5 years that it has now, we were making a market, and the relationships that I built with hospitals and clinicians and even some patients then, I still consider those people friends today, and I think that's the ultimate marker of time well spent.
Tell me about the problem then. When did you realize it existed, and when did you realize I can fix this?
Well, So the problem we solve is helping patients get hospital appointments, booking, changing, and then making sure that the appointment is appropriate and valuable, which if you've spent more than about 30 seconds in a hospital, you realise is pretty big and pretty important. It happened for me because I was working in a hospital and I was doing sort of improvement projects. So how do we improve the efficiency of the theatres? How do we make the outpatients department a bit better? And I was sat in an outpatient clinic in Coventry Hospital, kind of doing what we call a study, so watching the patients turn up for their appointments. And I watched 5 patients in a row turn up to the front desk, elderly, and they put their letters down and they were told that clinic had been cancelled. And all these patients had travelled in, they've got the bus or they've got a lift or they've taken a day off work or whatever it was, and the communication hadn't got through to them in time. So it was a wasted day for them. They were then told the next available appointment, it was going to be another 6 weeks. So it wasn't just a wasted day, but they weren't getting the care they needed. And it was, 2012, the iPhone had come out a few years before, right? The iPhone was 5 years old. It was starting to get some real traction. I'd just got one, and I was like, this thing is going to transform the way that we do health. And so that was that simple hypothesis, really. Use mobile phones to allow people to manage their NHS appointments. Turns out it's a pretty tricky problem, actually. And if we'd have realised how hard it was, we probably wouldn't even have started.
What made it hard? What's the trickiest bit? What did you go, I do not know how to fix that? Where did that come?
Well, I mean, the NHS is, as we know, it's a brilliant service, but it's huge. At times it can be bureaucratic. It is full of brilliant people that want to do great stuff. But as I said, like early on, persuading IT departments that we should give patients, access through the internet to their appointment details, that was just a no. That was a no. We cannot do that. And that's changed. That culture has changed massively now. People really understand that it's important to share patient data. There was the behavioural change. Clinicians concerned that they were going to get overloaded with appointments. Writing the software, getting the software to interoperate with the hospital systems. It was like there wasn't one. There was 20 different things that we had to get through. But we just picked them off one by one. And actually, the first thing we did, luckily, was we went and sat and talked to patients about what they really wanted. And this kind of, we were going to build an iPhone app to book appointments. And actually what patients told us was, I just want to know where I'm going and why. So the very first thing we built was a text message that said, hey, David, you've got an outpatient appointment tomorrow in orthopedics. Text back, change or cancel if you can't make it. That was the very first thing we built. And that actually solved for most people 80% of their problem. We now send 11 million text messages a month to, a couple of million patients. It, that has stayed really true to the core of our product, but it shows the value of going and talking to people early on, I think.
Yeah, and these days, a lot of our listeners will have, they won't know it, but they will have received a text message from you guys, effectively.
They will.
How quickly, though, did you get to that point? You said you were maybe 5 years ahead of your time.
Yeah.
How soon was it before you had even 100,000 people rather than 2 million?
I mean, if all startups on a hockey stick curve, and we certainly have one, because it was so flat for the first bit, we won a contract with Nottingham University Hospitals 3 years in to do all of their outpatient activity. And that was a big moment. Suddenly we've been doing lots of little bits in clinics all over the place. And that was our first, all right, we're doing a whole hospital, QMC in Nottingham. They do 1.3 million outpatient activities a year. And we took on all of that and digitalised it. That was cool. And the patient benefits and the savings they made were really helpful. And then in 2016, we won the contract with Guy's and St Thomas to do their outpatients. And that was a real turning point. We had a few, we had sort of 10 or so customers at that point, but GSTT is the biggest and best known teaching hospital in the country, arguably. I'm sure UCLH would say otherwise, and probably some of our friends further north. But that size of institution, realizing the value that we could deliver, made a huge difference. And from that point onwards, the numbers were ticking up by the millions month on month, really.
But in that point, when everything was flatlining. Did you ever think, I'm going to have to go get a job? Did you ever think, this isn't going to work? I'm going to get a job and buy my car back?
I'm watching it on Auto Trader. I'm definitely. The thing about startup life is the highs are high, but the lows are super low. There were a number of occasions where we thought the business was going to run out of money. I think we've had 4 times in the business's history where we pretty much had about threepence in the bank account and it was waiting for that next invoice to be paid. Certainly times where it just felt like the problem was so hard. And I remember talking to a client of mine when we were trying to get a contract signed, and it had been months and months and months, and we'd been doing all this work, essentially for free because we didn't have a contract. And I just said, we're going to have to walk away. So she went and pulled every string she could and got that contract signed, and actually that's been a great relationship ever since. But yeah, numerous times I think we thought we might have to go and get a job. I think the thing that got us through, David, is a belief in the mission. I wouldn't recommend anyone starts a health tech business unless you really, really, really care, because it is such a hard problem. But the reward is so great because you're genuinely helping people. And we measure the impact of our business. We have a set of impact metrics. And In our business, I can truly put my hand on my heart and say that the impact we have on patients is directly correlated with the financial success of the organisation. And that's a brilliant thing.
All right, better go deal with that. Okay, so while that's happening, here are some ads. And hit your follow button so you never miss an episode of How to Be a CEO. It's a bit like getting a reminder every time a new episode drops. Back after these. I wonder if the challenge for you has changed in sense of people's perspectives and things. So when you're starting out there, you're trying to persuade people that using AI and algorithms can make this work more efficiently. But in the last year, the conversation has been about AI is taking everything over and it's a terrible thing and it's going to ruin all these things. Have you seen that change and have you had to adapt to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the AI revolution probably has been overstated in the effect that it will have on most people's jobs. There's no doubt that, if you're a software developer, AI can make you 10 times more efficient because it can help you predict the next bit of code you need to write. And I think the same is true if you're a doctor. So AI is not going to replace the job of a doctor. The job of a doctor is to help someone come to terms with their diagnoses and make sure that they have a good outcome. The diagnoses bit, AI absolutely can help with, but it can't do the human parts of medicine. If you look at the size of the NHS waiting list, we've got, 7.4 million people waiting for care. If we can use AI to better triage, better stratify, help doctors make better decisions so they can do the human part of healthcare, I think it only means a better healthcare service and a more rewarding life as a clinician, as well as kind of better outcomes as patients. So it will change things. I think it will change things for the better because it will make everything more personal and more human. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to build pragmatic AI into our technology such that if you're a patient, you get the right care more quickly. We're not trying to replace the doctors. We're trying to help you get to the right person so that you can have a human interaction.
And how have you guys found the advancements in AI over the last 10 years? Has that made your life easier?
No, I don't think it has, actually. I don't think it has. AI is everywhere, right? Like if you write an email these days, your email program tells you what the next few words are going to be. And it does make your life 10% better. But as an entrepreneur, the problems you're solving are by default new and they're edge cases. And if you're solving edge case problems, you need people to think in different ways, out of the box ways. And I think AI is brilliant. Like if you're writing a research paper or if you want to learn about a new topic quickly, ask ChatGPT and it'll help you get up to speed. The next jump needs creative human minds, often lots of them working together.
Yeah, I think what some people don't realize is that AI can only tell you stuff it already knows effectively. Yeah. So if you come to it with something brand new, it still needs a human to make all these kind of different connections and then have that little bit of inspiration from somewhere, doesn't it?
Exactly. I think chess is like a really good example here where a human and a computer together are the ultimate chess player. It's not the computer on its own. It's definitely not the human on its own anymore. But a human and a computer together are super powerful. And that's the model I try and apply to kind of how do we leverage these things at work. Like they can make us more efficient. They can help us, as you say, like the stuff that AI knows, it knows. And then as a human, you can make the next jump and also then make the kind of emotional, empathetic connection with the people that you're working with and the people that you're selling to or the people that you're looking after or whatever it might be.
Now, thinking about challenges there, I would imagine, I don't know, maybe it was easy for you, but when the COVID pandemic hit, that must have been an interesting time for your company. Were you ready for it? Did you go, yeah, we can do this?
We were not ready for it. We were lucky in that, as a software business, lots of people work remotely anyway. So the shift to remote was not too tough for us. I think I had a very different pandemic to a lot of people. We felt we had real purpose. We were building products, we were deploying technology into hospitals. We were not on the front line, and I will never claim that. I know clinicians that were on the front line and they had a hard time. But we were just behind, sort of manning the kitchens, if you like. And that was rewarding. I was literally sat in the spare room and working more hours than I'd ever worked before, but feeling like we were at least doing something helpful. We built a lot of products then, and I think interestingly, kind of you reflect on it, the products that we built in the pandemic, probably we built a video teleconsultation platform, and we built some like messaging tools. Like actually what we've discovered since is the real value is helping the NHS recover its backlog. That's where we've been really, really helpful. It's the tools that, the waiting list suddenly shot up, as we all know. NHS productivity took a massive dive, hasn't yet recovered. And where DrDoctor can be really valuable is it can help solve the productivity challenge and solve the waiting list challenge. So actually, like, almost our frontline battle is now, rather than during the pandemic. I think what's interesting is post-pandemic, almost the NHS I think there are people that almost miss it in a way, because things happened quickly. Things weren't perfect, but decisions were made, and you could get things done. I think we've lost a bit of that since, and it would be brilliant to see that kind of rapid, sensible risk-taking because the reward is worth it kind of stuff come back into health. I think it would be good for everybody.
Had your software not been available, had it not been deployed in some places and ready to be deployed in others, how much harder would the NHS have had it during and after COVID?
We've had nearly 100 million NHS appointments in our system to date, right? So, at that point, we were certainly managing tens of millions of live appointments, and we shifted them all remote, and we could do that immediately because all you had to do was press a button, and you could send a message to millions of patients and say, this is now going to be a telephone call, or this is now going to be a video, or this isn't going to happen at all. So we certainly allowed hospitals to be a lot more agile during the pandemic. And then the point about after, I think, as I said, I think this is where we're making a real difference. There is no way that the NHS can continue to work the way it has always worked and get through the 7.4 million people who are waiting. Outpatients it hasn't changed really since the NHS was founded. It probably actually hasn't changed since Thomas Guy put a bench outside Guy's Hospital in 1600. And we have to think about different ways of working. And what our technology allows hospitals to do is think about patients differently and see people based on need, not time, keep people at home, provide asynchronous 24/7 care rather than it being about you turn up into a grey building in the centre of London to be seen for 10 minutes by somebody and then you have to come all the way home. And I think that's it's got to be the future.
What's the future for you, though? What's next for your company? Where are you looking at? How do you develop stuff even further?
So we're really focused on the UK. I think there's so much to do here that taking the business international at the moment would be the wrong focus. Our aim is to move the NHS to a hybrid model where everybody gets the right care in the right place when they need it. And we work with about 30% of NHS organisations now. We want to be working with every single NHS organisation in the country, working with every patient in the country in order that they can get the right care. And that means not just working with hospitals, it means working with community trusts, with mental health, with GPs. Because as a patient, you don't think of those organisations as separate. You think about yourself as having a condition and wanting to get care. And so breaking down those arbitrary silos and helping people have a really consistent, low stress, great outcome experience is what we're all about. And so that means lots of investment in product. We've got a team here in London who are building, our next set of, we talked about AI, our next set of AI tools, our next set of comms tools. So there's a lot to do, over the next few years.
And Tom, I'm just wondering, have you ever had a text message through DrDoctor, like the first one you ever got, and you went, oh, it works?
Yeah, I have. And to be honest with you, I thought it was a problem with the system because I was like, hang on, why am I getting a test? Oh, no, I do have an appointment here. What was actually cooler, to be honest, is my dad ended up as a patient at Guy's and St Thomas with an autoimmune disease, and he had a very stressful experience up until that point, and ended up with lots and lots of appointments, and he got them all through DrDoctor, and that made me really proud. It was being able to see the effect it had on him. It brought it home for me, and that's why we do it.
What car have you got now, Tom?
I now have a VW electric camper van thing called an ID Buzz, which I absolutely love. It's brilliant. I've got 2 kids and a dog. You can fit them all in the back. You can go camping in the New Forest. It's all about lifestyle. It's absolutely wonderful. I've only had it about 3 weeks and I'm completely obsessed by it. I think it's brilliant.
That was Tom Whicher, CEO and founder of DrDoctor. How to be a CEO will be back in 2 weeks' time again. In the meantime, head over to standard.co.uk for all the latest business news, interviews and analysis.